Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Alex Avila with Love University. Please make sure you like, comment, and subscribe on today's video. Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Alex Avila with Love University, and we're back. I'm an author, psychologist, and speaker. Every week, we're talking about how to love ourselves, others, and a higher nature, how to improve our finances, career, health, relationships, and spirituality. And today, we have a very distinguished guest. This is Judith Orloff, who is a world-renowned psychiatrist, empath, and a New York Times bestselling author. She earned her medical degree at USC and then did her graduate work at UCLA. She's a UCLA clinical faculty member and treats highly sensitive people in her practice. She's been featured on many programs, including CNN, The Today Show, Oprah Magazine, and she's the author of the upcoming book, a very fascinating book we're going to talk about, The Genius of Empathy, Practical Skills to Heal Your Sensitive Soul, Your Relationships, and the World. And she enjoys nature and films. Welcome to the show, Judith.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Yeah, and here's the important question, Judith. What is your favorite empathy film?
Oh, my favorite empathy film. I think August Rush.
Okay, tell us, what was the main point of that one, the August Rush?
August Rush was about a child who had experienced the world through music, and he would feel the music of life, and he would then become the music and absorb the music. So it was an incredible combination of creativity and empathy.
Incredible. When did that come out? I haven't really heard about that. Is that
It's an older movie. It's an older movie, but it's so worth it if you know, in terms of your audience.
I remember the Boy in the Plastic Bubble. You ever heard about that one? John Travolta?
Yeah. No, this is a little different than that.
A little different. Okay. Yeah. Now, for 30 years, you've been integrating science, psychiatry, and also intuition, feeling you're an empathetic person. And you define empathy in your book as giving and caring with intention, softening the struggle, quieting the unkind voices, which are the critical voices, and befriending yourself again. And you say empathy is a form of genius or emotional intelligence. So tell us about that.
It really is. I think empathy is the trait that's going to save our relationships and save the world. I really do. I think it's the missing element. And so I wanted to devote the genius of empathy to developing empathy, how it can be used as a healing tool to help heal ourselves and our own emotional issues, as well as our relationships. How does empathy apply to relationships? How can it help you with your spouse? How can it help you with your children or your coworkers? And then if you feel so moved, to apply it to the world, to not get stuck in the downward spiral of darkness and negativity, and try to apply empathy in ways you never even thought of before, to elevate everything and to help heal. The point of this book is healing, and it's about how to be empathic and protect yourself so you don't absorb all the negative energy of the world.
Yes, I noticed that when I'm reading the book, which is very well done, you write a lot about protecting yourself from these, maybe negative energies, where there's a mood contagion, as we know, that we get negative energy and also we can give it out possibly. So is this book mainly for highly sensitive people or intuitive, what do you call intuitive feelers on the Myers-Briggs, the meaning seekers, or is it for other people?
It's for everybody. It's for everybody. Empathy is on a spectrum. Empathy goes from no empathy, such as with narcissists and sociopaths, to everyday empathy, which is so beautiful. I feel for you. I feel for what you're going through, to highly sensitive people and empaths who can be emotional sponges and take on the angst of the world.
I see what you're saying. Because, in psychology, therapy, empathy, putting yourself in the other person's shoes, Carl Rogers talked about it a lot, so these are important elements, which is very healing. Now, you do talk about healing. How does empathy heal either others or yourself?
Well, just imagine if you're going through an incredible stress, or a loved one is going through a hard time physically or emotionally. If you're able to say to yourself, take this a moment at a time, you're doing a great job. I'm going to love yourself through this. I'm going to love myself through this. I'm not going to go down into a pit, and I'm going to just open up my heart and begin to feel, rather than I'm so depressed I can't function and I can't handle it. So showing empathy with yourself is like being your own best friend.
That makes sense. And then showing empathy to others also helps heal them as well. people that have been through.
It does, as opposed to you showing up with fear or anger or resentment, to show up with empathy, but to keep a healthy boundary. One theme I talk about in the book is how to set healthy boundaries so you don't get overly involved, because a lot of empaths and sensitive people can be codependent, where they get overly involved in other people's lives. And I'm an empath. I'm a psychiatrist.
Yes.
And, just the other day, my partner told me I was overhelping, so it's something I've got to really watch in myself to overhelp.
Yes.
But we need to have these open dialogues. That's the thing about empathy, is you need to say to one another, no, it's a little bit too much empathy. You can smother someone with empathy too, which isn't what you want to do. So you want to an equal balance so you can have a big heart, but yet protect yourself and not get overly suffocating others with it.
I'm kind of wondering, I think it was Elaine Aron that wrote, was it The Highly Sensitive Person? That book a while back. So I'm kind of interested, I work a lot with shyness. I wrote a book called The Gift of Shyness, how shy people have sensitive traits and other things. But, obviously the self-conscious, the self-observer is what holds them back, self-critic. But the idea of genetically speaking, they say that a certain percentage of, children, are shy and then they become shy adults. I'm kind of curious about empathy as well, because you seem like you've always been that way, I think, from what I understand, empathetic. Do you think it's somewhat genetic in some ways? Or what's your feeling about that?
In the book, I go through the neuroscience of empathy, and there are many beginnings of it. There can be temperament. The baby come into the world and they just they're feeling everything.
Inhibited.
Yeah. They're empathic, and sometimes trauma can shape empathy. If you go through a traumatic childhood, it can wear you down in ways where your defenses and your filters aren't as strong as they need to be. And so you end up feeling so much. And so it can be trauma, it can be temperament, and it can be, I've noticed that from the pandemic on, many of my empaths in my group were suffering tremendously during that time. And they tend to take on the world's pain. And so part of the genius of empathy is learning how to practice self-care and not go down that black hole. It doesn't help you to go down the black hole of despair in the world, because it doesn't help anybody.
Makes sense. And the other component is that you say you're an intuitive. Originally, I had a woman on my show who's apparently a psychic, but she calls herself intuitive consultant. How do you define that? I mean, are you able to see the future or read people's thoughts? I mean, what is intuitive versus psychic mean?
Well, the way I work with my intuition is I have a private practice and I see patients. And when I listen to patients, I listen with my psychiatrist mind, the science-based mind. And I also listen to any intuitions that come to me, any flashes, hunches, gut feelings. And I incorporate that with the more linear knowledge that I get. So I use both.
I see. So you go by the gut and also by the head, as they say, combination.
Yeah, I do both. And
then the heart would be, I guess, the empathy that goes with that as well.
Emotional empathy is when you're gushing from your heart. You have emotional empaths are open-hearted, loving, caring people, maybe too much. So they need to set the boundary.
I see. Now, at Love University, our motto is to love yourself, others, and the higher nature, which could be God, spirit, or nature. Do you have a similar setup in your book? You said to have empathy toward yourself, others, and then the world. And then starting with self-empathy, you talk about being your best version, extraordinary self. And also, but the thing is, you say you must want empathy. Now, here's an interesting point. What if someone says, hey, I don't really want empathy. I'm busy with my own problems. I can't really think of other people's problems. What do you say to people like that?
Fine. I don't try and convince anybody of anything. This has to be something you want, or at least are curious about. If you don't want it, God bless you, go your own path, and I hope it's working for you. But what I've seen is that empathy can make your life better. It can make you more loving. It can make your relationships, incredible. And it can help you in your health in so many ways, simply by being kind to yourself instead of self-loathing when you get an illness, or
Right.
Empathy is the tool you want to take with you through life.
Yes. So empathy toward yourself, and toward others as well, you're saying.
Right. Right.
Now, the thing is, the idea of over empathizing. Now, you mentioned that a few times, and, with, I guess, sensitive people and, what I call caretakers on the personality types.
Right.
Want to help other people to a high extent. And you talk about things like setting boundaries, combating overthinking. So you even have something that says, put your heart, hand over your heart and say all is well. How does that work?
Well, learning self-empathy is about changing preconditioned thoughts that you might have had from your parents, such as it's selfish to show your self-empathy. You need to just help other people. And it's also opening up your heart. So it's energetic and it's also thoughts in your mind. So there are two processes. So you want to open up your heart and you want to clear those negative messages that your parents might have given you about being selfish if you practice self-care. And all of that can help you with self-empathy.
What percentage of people do you think are naturally empathetic?
Some in terms of children or
overall, like children to adults. Is there like a percentage? Because we know there's shy people. They say they're about 40 to 50%. Introverts, 40 to 50%.
Yeah, in terms of percentages, I think there are 20 to 30% highly sensitive people.
Okay.
But I think there are more. In my experience, I go everywhere. People communicate with me from everywhere. I get, hundreds of, there's so many empaths out there around the world. And so I think it's much higher. I haven't done a study on it, but I hear from all of them.
Of course, yeah. I wrote a book, Love Types, on Myers-Briggs applied to relationship compatibility. And I talk about the feelers. And I mentioned the word closet feelers. So people that may have been feelers as children, but maybe their parents kicked it out of them or some experiences, but they're really feelers, but they manifest as thinkers. They're very logical. Have you met people like that? That when you
yes, I have. It's a form. I go through the different types of empathy in the book, and cognitive empathy is one type where people express their empathy through their minds. Yes. They're not in their hearts, but they're able to really feel in their minds. I feel for you, and I'm so sorry you have to go through this, but sometimes people go up into their minds because they got scared off from their hearts, and they, especially, men, I think it's a lot harder for men to come from their hearts and their heads. They might feel safer in the lineage, not all men, and please, I'm not generalizing at all, because I know there are many empaths out there that are men. But it's harder. I've talked to men over the years. They've gotten bullied. They've been called crybabies. They've been put down in the schoolyard. It's just been horrible for sensitive boys. So
it is, yeah. Well, I'm a male feeler myself, and when I talk in my seminars, I say, gentlemen, raise your hands if you're a male feeler. But they don't want to do it because they're maybe embarrassed. But they could be a strong, manly person, but still be a feeler. But that's, according to stereotypes, like I said.
I know. I have a group on Facebook called Dr. Orloff's Empath Support Community with about 22,000 empaths.
Wow.
It's mainly women who comment, and then occasionally someone will ask, are there any men in this group? And then suddenly they all come out of the closet.
They pop out. Okay.
They pop out. They say, yeah, we've been listening, but we don't feel comfortable expressing ourselves.
Right, of course. That'd be nice. A group from male empathy men would be kind of interesting, I guess. If you were to get that out there. It would
be, yeah.
The hidden minority, I guess, would be interesting.
Yeah.
Now, you talk about things like making a doable change, slowing things down, for self-empathy stuff. I guess, the perfectionism can become a problem. High achievers, I got to do more. I got to accomplish more. And they attack themselves. I didn't do enough. So how do we combat that perfectionistic nowadays, they call it toxic productivity. It used to be called workaholic. But what's your opinion on those people?
Well, empathy can work wonders for those people. The perfectionism, which is so painful, and the pushing so hard is so painful. And there are other ways to be super productive, even more productive, by being kind to yourself. So you have to notice what goes on in your head. I've sat across so many people as a psychiatrist, and I know most people are beating themselves up here. It's not Love University in their head.
It's
It's
Attack University, right, or something, right?
yeah, it's different, but that's okay.
Yeah.
You don't have to feel ashamed of that. You could
Mm.
begin to work with your perfectionism and say, hey, this isn't working for me anymore. This is too painful.
Mm.
I really want to enjoy my work and not push myself so hard. So you have to begin that evolution with empathy. And whatever age you're at, it doesn't matter. You can start where you're at. Just read the book from page 1. Just start with self-empathy from page 1, a new beginning. Every day is a new beginning.
Yes, definitely. And as I'm thinking about this, I'm thinking of what we call the self-critic. Sometimes it's the superego or different things they call it. And people attack themselves for attacking themselves. Have you noticed that? For having a self-critic. So maybe accepting that could be a way out of it in some ways, that you have this self-critic, but you can transform it in some way.
Yes, and you have the capacity to be kind to yourself. Everyone is listening. You can do it. I mean, even just one kind word to yourself today, if you can say, you've done a great job.
Yes.
Or I feel for you. That was a lot to deal with. That's talking to yourself. I want to point out that a lot of empathy is self-dialogue. It's how you talk to yourself. And how you talk to other people. Because if you talk to other people with an empathic tone, they're more likely to hear you. If you're snippy and angry and judgmental, you will not be heard. So I like everyone to master their tone of voice. That's part of empathy, is learning how to speak with the empathic yet firm. You're not wishy-washy.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like that blend. Empathic but firm. I think, what is the word? Wise as a serpent, soft as a dove, or something like that. So you have a little bit of both.
Right.
I'm kind of curious. Did you grow up with either loving, supportive parents, or were they critical parents, or what was your background?
I was an only child of 2 physician parents in California. You too?
Only child,
Yeah. And I have 25 physicians in my family, and I was a little girl, I know, who was really empathic and intuitive. I got hurt very easily, and I go into shopping malls and crowded places because I feel, like I absorb everything, and I'd walk out feeling badly. And my parents said, who are very loving, said, you need a thicker skin, you need to toughen up, you shouldn't be so sensitive. And so I grew up believing there was something wrong with me. But my parents were very loving, well-meaning, but gave me the wrong messages about this.
I see what you're saying. So they were loving, but like you said, they didn't, I guess, nurture or understand your sensitivity at that time.
No, they did not. They did not.
And did you follow a spiritual path or some traditions growing up?
Oh, well, growing up, I was brought up Reformed Judaism, but my path as an adult, the past 30 years, has been Taoism. I have a Taoist teacher.
Interesting. Yeah, because I know some of the Eastern approaches you're saying, talking there, very interesting here. And the idea of dealing with other people and conflict. And one thing that's interesting, I work also with Aikido and some of the martial arts philosophies in dealing with problems, is, in Aikido is basically you harmonize with conflict. So you join the person, and then you lead them. So someone's angry at you, you might raise your voice, but I really understand you're angry at me, but then you lower it down. Let's find a solution.
Yeah.
So do you endorse those kind of ideas?
I do. I mean, so much so about harmonizing with people.
Yes.
And, I quote in the book, The Art of War, where he talks about, you want to avoid war and conflict at all costs. And if you do have to go to war, it's proper to be miserable about it and realize it as a sort of failure that nothing else worked. And so that's the proper attitude to have. It's not, hey, we're going to war. It's this is misery that I have to contribute to this. But it's necessary. It's the only thing left. So you don't want to get there. War at home, war with your family. You don't want to make your family into the enemy, or your friends into the enemy, because it's so easy to do that. And you have to try to find empathy. You need to go off by yourself if you're having a conflict with your family or a friend and not aggravate it. You need to regroup. And so that's an empathic strategy for people to learn, not to just keep hammering and get into old arguing habits, as arguing isn't really going to help anything. You need to take yourself out of the situation for a while. Just try and remember that.
Yes.
Don't just keep hammering it.
Right. They call it the time out in relationships. Take the time, go shopping or work out and then come back and talk about it. And you say respond, don't attack also. And I'm kind of thinking about, unfortunately, we have real wars in the real world today. Could empathy help with those wars, do you think?
Empathy can remove war. If we can have empathy for each other, which would mean a lot of diplomacy in a different way, an energetic kind of diplomacy, not just an intellectual kind of diplomacy, but energetic and from the heart, you can have different outcomes. It's true, human beings have a warring nature. We have a dark side. That's, surprise, surprise. But we can tame it. And if people were educated about this, and you could tame the parts of you that, want to kill, and, because you're so angry, you want to kill. I just, gave in my online course that I'm giving on empathy, a woman shared she was just enraged that, she was betrayed by her sister before she died, and she felt like killing her family, and I'm like, I totally understand those feelings. This is how we feel, but you don't act on it and in any way. And she said, of course not. Right. But you have to admit that part of yourself. A lot of people have a hard time admitting, I just want to kill somebody, that natural feeling. You spiritually bypass that to, right. Oh, I forgive you, before you deal with the actual energy. And if you don't deal with it personally, collectively, we're never going to deal with it.
I see. Are you an analytical psychiatrist, like a Freudian, Jungian, or do you have a different?
No.
Okay.
No, I'm more of a intuitive psychiatrist, an energy psychiatrist.
I see. Because they talk about the shadow. You heard that term, where you repress certain parts of yourself. You're talking about maybe the aggressive impulses that people may have in some ways.
We all have it. Everybody, don't be ashamed, but you have to tame them. And you've got to work with them. And when you do that, they won't rule you.
That makes sense, yeah. Now, the other thing, this is something that really struck me from your book. This is one line that was very interesting. It says, healthy giving can be conditional. Now, we often hear about, unconditional love, agape, bhakti, and also karuna, compassion or devotion, respectively. And as the gold standard, right? Let's give without expectation, ideally, which adult humans don't do that as much. But here you're saying no, that conditional healthy giving can be fine and having boundaries. So tell us about that, because that kind of goes against a lot of some of the Eastern other approaches that we have.
Absolutely. It depends on the situation. But when you have a situation where it's too much for you to handle and you have too much on your plate, but you can give so much, you need to say, I only have 10 minutes to listen to you now, but I'm here and I'm listening, as opposed to an open-ended listening experience, which can go on forever and train you. So to be able to set limits is healthy. Sometimes you do give unconditional love, but sometimes perhaps with people who you're not as close to or who you just have to be more practical with, you can limit the amount of giving, but still have high quality giving in that limited time.
It's kind of cool. Yeah, high quality giving, and then tell them up front, right? But if you just say, I'm too busy for you, that's not.
No, that hurts. I'm too busy for you.
I'm too busy for you. If you say, I have 10 minutes of quality, loving time, let's apply it, then that's different, right? The whole different.
Yeah, let's sit down and have some tea.
I like that. That's kind of cool. Now, the other thing you talk about is the idea of codependency and also being a martyr. So I guess, sacrificing yourself, giving too much, which we see that sometimes. So the idea is your giving reciprocated? I think of it as an exchange, right? You're giving out this loving energy and, it's not coming back. So you might redirect it elsewhere. So what's your idea about that when you're over giving like this?
Absolutely. I'm all for reciprocal giving in friendships. That's what happens with empaths or codependents is they're the one who's always giving. The friend goes through various things. They're the one who's giving. But when the empath goes through the problem, the friend isn't there. So that kind of giving is not a healthy giving. Right. You need to reciprocate unless you make a specific choice that it's okay with you to give in that way, and not get anything back. I mean, sometimes when people are very sick and you're caring for them, it's an unconditional. They can't give back in the same way. But in your everyday life, just with friends, reciprocal giving is where it's at. If they're not giving back to you, question what's going on.
Makes a lot of sense. And you mentioned you were overgiving this week, you said?
Yes, my partner accused me of overgiving, and I think I was.
Like too many Christmas gifts, or were you just doing some things extra?
I was trying too hard to help him.
Oh, help him. Oh, okay. I see.
And it came off as too much.
Okay. Kind of the hovering mom, or what do you call it? The, overprotective kind of person a little bit.
Yeah. I had to take a step back. I go, okay, I hear that.
Now, the other side of that is the non-givers. And you talk about the narcissists, the sociopaths, and all these kind of people that take advantage and manipulate and all this different stuff. Now, how about this, though? Should you be empathetic to a narcissist sociopath and loving toward them? And you know the old phrase, turn the other cheek. So someone slaps you, you turn the other face to get slapped again, or do you walk away?
It depends on the situation. But if you're talking about a full-blown narcissist, they have empathy deficient disorder, and they're not capable of empathy. So it's like going into a hardware store and expecting to get a nice, warm cinnamon bun with coffee, and all they have are these cold, sterile tools.
Right. But should you have empathy for the empathy-less?
You can have empathy for the empathy-less, but you don't want to marry them. You don't want to have them be your friend.
There you go.
Unless you're okay with
or business partner necessarily, right? Or something like that.
Or business partner, because they don't have empathy for you and all they care about is themselves. So it's not generally a good idea to get involved with narcissists. I've worked with so many people trying to dig themselves out of relationships with narcissists 20 years later, and they're crawling out of the relationship. Their self-esteem is so battered. But you want to be with somebody who has empathy. Narcissists, they put on this bravado and this front, but they don't have it when it comes to, really being with somebody. So empaths, in the book, I stress that a lot in that chapter. And empaths sometimes get mad at me for that because they say, love can heal everything. Why are you saying this? And I wish love could heal the full-blown narcissist. I wish, but it can't. And I'm so sorry about that. And sometimes people have to experiment on their own, and God bless you if you do, but it's going to be a rough path. I warn you.
I see. So maybe there should be an empathy dating service or empathy, way to meet people, each other.
I don't know. Not all empaths want to be with an empath. Like, I don't want to be with an empath because
really? Okay.
No, because I'm enough to deal with myself.
I see. You want someone who has a loving nature, right? You don't want a sociopath or a narcissist. So
no.
Obviously,
no, I want a loving person, but I want
person. Yes.
a more intellectual,
like a balancing
body. Yeah, balanced person. I don't want another empath.
Oh, okay. You'll be crying all day over your cereal or something, right? Or something,
Both of you doing it is too much for me. But I want to say some empaths love being with other empaths.
Oh, okay.
Because you communicate. You're on the same wavelengths. You don't have to reinvent the wheel every time you communicate. So it's personal taste. It's just what my preference is doesn't mean what your preference.
I see.
The book will guide you through asking all these questions and discovering all this about yourself.
Definitely. Now, how about the role of forgiveness? Because I was mentioning someone's cruel to you. Do you forgive them as part of empathy toward yourself as well as them? Or how do you deal with that?
I usually end up forgiving them because after a time wipes out all the bad things for me and I remember better things, but I don't get involved with them again. I forgive them for their suffering or their closed-heartedness.
Sure.
I don't forgive the act. If anyone abuses you, if anyone betrays you, you don't have to forgive the act, but what you forgive is the suffering and the short-sightedness, the lack of heart behind horrible behavior. But you don't have to forgive the behavior.
You don't have to continue with them or anything, but it's kind of an understanding, a perspective of something. Maybe something you learned from that, possibly.
It's something you learn from everything. That's my philosophy.
Yeah, that's a good philosophy. And the idea that people are their own reward or their own suffering, right? So they suffer, from their own condition as well, which is part of that, which is a kind of nice way to understand it. And the other thing you talk about, and I think the last point is empathy for the world. And you also mentioned empathetic leaders, people that understand each other, encourage others, that are people versus mission focused. So they really encourage that as well. That's important to do that.
Yes.
And
yes.
then, yes.
The 14th Dalai Lama, I am honored to say, wrote the foreword to this book.
That was great.
And he is one of the empathic leaders one of my heroes.
Wow. That's pretty rare, do you think? Or are there empath leaders out there somewhere in the world?
No, they're empathic leaders. The former Prime Minister of New Zealand was an empathic leader, Lucinda Ardern. And she was wide open with her empathy.
I see.
And very, wonderful to see.
Yeah, I had Marianne Williamson on here when she was running for president, and she talks about politics. I think you know her, right, Marianne?
I do.
And she's, I guess she could be considered that, an empathic leader, I would think.
I think so. I think she has a real feeling for everything. I like her very much.
Exactly. And then the idea of the power of we, I think you kind of conclude things. We're united in the world, we're all human. We all have the capacity to love. And there's a meditation you probably maybe have practiced called Tonglen. Tonglen is when you inhale the suffering of others and breathe out compassion, which is a very high form of empathy, I would imagine. Compassion is taking action, right, based on empathy. Tell us,
right.
How do you see we becoming we through empathy?
When you tune in with your intuition and your empathy, when you picture the globe, you can feel the interconnection between every human being. And it's something that empaths and sensitive people can feel through intuition. It's not linear. We're all connected. Look at us. We're all made basically the same. We have the same package. We have different issues, but we're the same. We're humans, right? And so this is our family, like it or not. This is our human family in this incarnation. So it's a beautiful feeling to connect with global empathy and to feel each other. And when people are going through war or oppression, you could send them love from your heart and empathy from your heart. So it goes like a magical energy that travels very far. And you never know where it goes and who's going to pick it up, because suddenly someone might feel better, or get another wind or something, or get a little hope just from your prayer for someone you don't know. But there are human families, so you know them on a basic level. But to begin to think of us as we instead of us versus them.
That's extremely powerful. And then you kind of concluded, and you told me personally, you said, I want to heal your heart, it was me, I guess, and also connect with me, and also connect with the readers in the world. That was nice that you ended it that way. So you personally want to connect and love and relieve suffering.
That's where it's at. That's where it's at for me, is connection.
Right. So individual people, do you try to connect with, I don't know, the barista or the person at the store? Do you ever talk to people and kind of get to know them a little bit?
Yeah. I mean, I'm shy and I'm an introvert. So yeah, so I don't always talk to people, but sometimes I do.
Okay.
And if I feel like it, I'm not over chatty with people, but I hold a space of heart, but I like being silent a lot, and so I'm not really an extrovert, so I don't talk a lot, but the energy I give off, I hope it's good one.
Yeah. I mean, I say be like the sun, the sun shines on everybody, the young and the old, rich and the poor, and the attractive and not so attractive, but the sun, some people don't like it and they cover up, but the sun doesn't get mad, right? It just keeps shining. And some people love the sun. So I guess smiling at people, saying hi, and I guess internally extending that loving energy, right? You do it internally.
You are, I let people go ahead of me in lines at the market because that makes them really happy. They can believe it.
You're practicing patience at the same time, right?
Plus, it makes me happy to let them in.
Oh wow, that's amazing. That's incredible. Yeah, I'm thinking of adult relationships. We don't have it much, but I know with parents and small children, there is that kind of unconditionalness, love. And also with animals and humans, it's like dogs or cats.
Right.
Do you like animals at all, or dogs?
Oh, I adore animals. I
You have one with you by any chance? A dog or anything?
I have a lot of stuffed animals.
Oh, stuffed animals. Oh, okay. What happened to them? They became stuffed after a while, or?
No. But my stuffed animals are alive too. I mean,
interesting. Wow.
Live personalities.
Yeah. And they have empathy for you as well. So
they do. They have endless empathy for me. I learn empathy from them all the time.
Incredible. Judith, it's been a great pleasure having you on the show. I can sense your love and energy, exuding from you as we speak. And, just having that desire to help people, the gift of empathy, I think is a beautiful term. I have the gift of shyness, right? So we're not too far apart.
Yeah.
And shyness being, sensitivity, reflection. Yours is, that desire to be in other people's shoes, extend loving energy. I think you also mentioned compassion in some way, right? Compassion, like doing things for others. You mentioned that too, I believe.
Yes, compassion, empathy ignites compassion. So you want to do it and help people and take action to help them.
Yes.
Sometimes, not all the time. And again, there's a boundary between codependency and healthy empathy.
Exactly. Now, can you show us the book again? I'd love to I read the preview of it, but I want to see the real book. There you go. Wow.
Here's the book, the Genius of Empathy.
That's beautiful. I love the color, green, and I like that, that setup there. Sensitive Self. And it's available, you said pre-order, is it April is coming out in 2024?
It's pre-order now. You can get it, on Amazon or barnesandnoble.com or any online. And the actual book will be on April 9th. But here it is.
Looking forward to it. Yeah, we definitely want to get our listeners to read it, and it's a beautiful book.
Thank you.
And very good. And tell us a little bit more about, I guess you have a website, and are you still accepting patients, or do you do coaching or, seminars? What is it you're up to these days?
Yes, I'm accepting patients, a limited number of patients. And my website is Dr. Judith Orloff, ORLOFF.com. drjudithorloff.com. And I have a lot of information on empathy and sensitivity and free videos and a link to my Facebook group if you're an empath and want to join that. All free.
Incredible. And you said you're doing a workshop coming up with the network, I think you said?
With the Shift Network. It's Empathy as a Catalyst for Healing. Wow. It's a 7-module course, a 7-week course, and you can listen to it in your own time if you can't make it at the exact time. And you can sign up. The link is on my website, drjudithorloff.com.
Are you familiar with Dr. Pat Allen? I used to work with her, the colleague.
Oh, we used to share an office.
You know Pat? Yeah, she's pretty amazing. She's a Jungian psychologist. Yeah,
Pat's phenomenal.
A lot of fun, yeah. Well, Judith, again, it's been a great pleasure to have you on the show. We'd love to have you on again and maybe talk more in depth about some of these topics. And the idea is, extending this loving energy, like you said, the empathy throughout the world. So, toward yourself, others, and toward the world, I think is a beautiful concept. And, raising the empathy set point, I guess, if there is such a thing, where we can increase it based on...
always, more and more and more empathy.
More and more. It's fantastic. Well, it's been a pleasure. This is Dr. Alex Avila of Love University. If you want to comment on today's show, you can reach us at 310-226-8090. Visit us at loveuniversity.love. Write to us at loveuniversitylove@gmail.com. So until next time, put away your notebooks, your iPads, your phones. Go out this week and give love and empathy to others and to yourself and to the world. That was a great interview with a fantastic psychiatrist, intuitive Judith Orloff, who's actually very well known. And she's very humble and very loving, which I really enjoyed that. And her book is called The Gift of Empathy. It's a tremendous title. It's a tremendous book. It talks about science, philosophy, psychology, spirituality, how we can give more love to ourselves, first of all, through empathy, and to other people. And that also raises our self-esteem, our confidence, and our success level. So being loving to yourself, others, and a higher nature is Love University's motto. And Dr. Orloff has a similar one. Give empathy to yourself, others, and the world. Love University students, if you want to learn more, visit us at loveuniversity.love. You can like us and follow us on the social media links below. And make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to our YouTube Love University channel. So until next time, this is Dr. Alex Avila. Go out this week and give empathy, love to yourself and to the world. Put away your notebooks, your iPads, your phones. Dr. Avila, class is now dismissed.